Well, alright! Welcome back to As It Should Be. Paul Berlino here in the world famous As It Should Be studios. Yeah, well, today I am going to be ranking the Steely Dan singles. Yeah, the Steely Dan singles. Now, I'm going to be doing just the original run from 1972 to 1981. I'm a fan of all Steely Dan. I'm a fan of the later period too, all the reunion stuff, the last two albums, and those. I think there may be about 6 singles from that period as well, but those are all promo singles. And I kind of thought, well, the singles from the original run comes in a nice, even, tight 20 singles. So just do that and, and have done with it. But I do like those later singles as well. But I'm not doing them today, so no grumbling about it. If you don't like it, make your own Steely Dan video. But all right, 1972, 1981 Steely Dan singles ranking, here we come. All right, coming in number 20, I have The Fez. Yeah, it's the last track on side 1 of 1976's The Royal Scam. And, it's kind of a very simple sort of groove, sort of, upbeat sort of groove, funky, dancey kind of track, right? Very, it leaves you very wanting in the lyric department. There's like only 1 or 2 lines that they just sort of repeat over and over and over again. I find it a really odd choice for a single. I mean, I just feel like there's just not a lot of substance to the track. It's a fun track and it's enjoyable, but it sounds more like a B-side to me than an actual A-side of a single. I mean, I always kind of thought it was kind of odd that they even included it as an album track. I mean, I repeat, sounds like a B-side. Good track, but odd choice for a single, and that's why I have it down at the bottom. There's no track on this list that I don't like, but compared to all the other stuff I have on the list, I'll put that at number 20. All right, coming to number 19, Time Out of Mind, from 1981. Now, this was from the last album of the original run, Gaucho, and this is actually the very last single they released in the U.S., like proper single. This was the second out of 3 singles they released, but the third one only came out, outside the U.S. We'll be talking about that one. But this one is, it's funny. This one, I feel like they're completely antiseptic at this point. Completely. I mean, I like the track, but it's getting pretty antiseptic. I mean, I think this track sounds like it's straight off the Nightfly. I mean, this track tells you exactly where Fagen's going next, and that's okay. That's okay. I just don't think the song is that great. I have a little bit of soft spot for the track, actually, because, I remember hearing it on the radio a lot when I was younger, and it kind of takes me back to that time. And that's the thing about this single, is that a lot of Steely Dan singles like Ricky Don't Lose That Number and Do It Again, those are all-timers. You've heard them over the years 1,000 times on classic rock radio, or anywhere, out in the wild. You just hear those songs. Time Out of Mind, you heard on the radio at that moment in time, during that one little window of time when it was on the charts, well, barely on the charts, but it was when it was a current single. You heard it on the radio, and that's that. So that song kind of takes me back to that moment, when I was 11. I was 11 when this song came out. So it's not one of their better songs, but I like it, and I have it in at number 19. All right, coming in number 18, their debut single, from 1972, their very first single, Dallas. Now this predates Can't Buy a Thrill. This was written, recorded, and released before that record was even a thing. And this features lead vocals from Jim Harder, the drummer, who's the same guy who did lead vocals on Midnight Cruiser on Can't Buy a Thrill. Now, the B-side, what's the B-side? Sail the Waterway. I should know this off the top of my head, right? Sail the Waterway, it says right here. That's what it says in my notes. Sail the Waterway. Which is a pretty, I'm not really going to be talking much about B-sides on this, but this is, exclusive to the single. It's not on any Steely Dan albums, and, it's sung by Fagen at least, but it's not, it's a pretty weak track. Dallas is pretty decent, maybe a little bit too country tinge for my taste, but has a really great kind of catchy chorus, but overall it's kind of mid, all right, but I like it. Dallas. All right, it's coming to number 17. A terrible choice for a single. Good album track, terrible choice for a single. Haitian Divorce. Yeah, that came out, well, that's from 1976 from the Royal Scam. And it didn't come out actually here in the US as a single, but it did come out in the UK, the Netherlands, and Germany. And, yeah, who decides these things? Haitian Divorce, really? It's kind of this odd reggae track that's just sort of, isn't it buried on side 2? Somewhere, I think it's like the second song side. I don't know, whatever. It's just, that's not a single. Great album track. I can dig it, man. But that is not a single. I mean, maybe that's why the U.S. didn't bother to release it. I don't know. But, in fact, to completely support this whole idea that it's a terrible single, it didn't even chart. So, there you go. Haitian Divorce. All right, it's coming to number 16, Showbiz Kids. Yeah, from 1973 from the second album, Countdown to Ecstasy. And, of course, the eternal question regarding this song, is it Las Vegas or is it Lost Wages? The answer is yes. Anyway, so yeah, this was I feel like this was an odd choice for a single. See, I already said that about Haitian Divorce. This less so, but I still find it a little bit of an odd choice for a single. Good song, but I feel like it's just sort of it's the same thing all the way through. It's just like an A section. A section, A section, A section, A section, out. Yeah, I know there's a bridge too. Just humor me. I'm exaggerating. Good lyrics. They got the Steely Dan t-shirts. All that kind of shit. But, it's... There's not a lot of meat, I feel like, in this particular song. Good groove, great sounding track, and it's Steely Dan. So it's not bad, but, Showbiz Kids. Okay, it's coming to number 15... Babylon Sisters, yeah, the opening track of Gaucho, the last album of the original run. This came out in 1981. The album was 80, but this was the last single. This was the last Steely Dan single, period. We didn't get it here in the US, but they got it in Australia and New Zealand and in the UK. Yeah, so I think it's a strong single. I almost want to say I feel like it's stronger than Time Out of Mind. You know what? I feel like Babylon Sisters is a stronger song, clearly, because I have it ranked higher, but Time Out of Mind does sound a little bit more like a single, so But yeah, Babylon Sisters, shake it. All right, it's coming to number 14, a song that a lot of people are probably going to say I have way too low. Well, some of the snobbier Steely Dan geeks probably won't think so. It'll be a little cooler to them to have this low, but great song. Got sick of it over the years. Peg. Yeah, Peg's great. Love it. Just burnt out on it. So, and that's something I guess I want to mention here for anybody who's never watched my videos before. When I do these, I'm not ranking these objectively. This is how I feel about it. Even if I think a song is objectively better than another one, if I just don't like it as much, or if I'm burnt out on it and I don't enjoy it as much anymore, I'm ranking it lower. I'm docking it for that. Because I just simply don't prefer the song anymore, even though I understand why it's better. Peg is a great, great song that is actually a lot better objectively than a lot of songs. I have it below, but I'm tired of it. Boy, did I love it in the 70s. I really loved this. And the thing is, this song was part of the Oxygen in 1977, kind of 78. I mean, if you managed to avoid this song back at that time, then you basically were not in the soul. You were in some other soul system somewhere. What else? I mean, okay, do we even need to discuss the crazy-ass backing vocals from Michael McDonald? Come on. Which I saw Steely Dan once with Michael McDonald doing that live. He was there on stage with them doing that live. It was badass. Okay, all right. All right, it's coming number 13, Deacon Blues. Yeah, from 1978. One of the many big Asia tracks, right? And they got the track, or the title, Deacon Blues, from Deacon Jones, because they really liked the sound of his name, and they thought, well... right? And, this is one of the many, many, many Steely Dan songs about being a loser. And one of the reasons why we love Steely Dan, right? Yeah. Great track. This is one I didn't like so much back in the 70s. When I was a kid, 78, 79, I was like an 8, 9-year-old kid. This was one that I just kind of found just sort of like, ugh. I don't know. There's something about the atmosphere of this one that just did not float my boat back then. Love it now, though. All right. I mean, maybe a little tired of it, but I do love it. Deacon Blues. All right, coming to number 12, Kid Charlemagne, yeah, the opening track from the Royal Scam. This came out in 1976, and I feel like this is where the Steely Dan, like the later Steely Dan, begins. The first 4 albums all have that sort of Steely Dan band feel. I mean, each of the 4 albums have that vibe, just a little bit less than the previous one, but I would say all 4 of them. I mean, going all the way up to Katy Lied, I feel like there's a band in the studio playing on that. When you get to Royal Scam, I feel like that's the first step to like the Asia and Beyond Steely Dan. That just sort of just sterile, too perfect for their own good studio creation kind of Steely Dan, you know, and kind of starting to get into the more kind of funky, dancey kind of vibes that they really, once they got on it, they did not get off of. Now, none of that is a complaint. Again, I want to say I love all Steely Dan. Kind of, I prefer the earlier Steely Dan, but I love the later Steely Dan too, and I love this one, Kid Charlemagne. I mean, what a great track with the iconic Larry Carlton solo on that. I mean, how could you possibly go wrong? Kid Charlemagne. All right, it's coming to number 11. My Old School, yeah, from 1973. Now, this is sort of like a bouncy, upbeat, major key single from the second album, from Countdown to Ecstasy. Did I already say that? But this song is, of course, about Fagen. Fagen and Becker met in Bard College in 1969, and Fagen was there was a big drug bust, and Fagen was one of those who were busted, and this song is about that. And this is another one of those songs that I kind of have trouble hearing it as a single, but what a great album track. And this is also one of those songs that they did. There was the great a Midnight Special performance. Those videos have been dropping kind of recently over this past year on YouTube. Amazing stuff. Great track. My Old School. All right, coming to number 10. Hey 19, yeah, from 1980, yeah, the first single to come out off of Gaucho, and boy, I really loved this when it came out. I still love this. This one has stood the test of time for me. I still love it, but I really loved it at the time too. Now, this is actually their biggest hit since Ricky Don't Lose That Number. Believe it or not. I mean, like, this charted higher than anything, if you can believe this, than anything off Asia. Yeah, I mean, like, Peg charted, it reached number 11. This got to 10. So this is only barely higher, but yeah, isn't that crazy? I don't know, but it's a great song. Hey 19. Okay, it's coming to number 9, the title track from their third album, Pretzel Logic. Yeah, so from 1974. This is kind of a lazy, bluesy kind of track from that album that they have buried in the middle of side 2. Another one of those odd choices for singles. I love this track. Now, I think this is a great album track. Decent choice for a single, but I find it really odd that they chose this when they had Any Major Dude. Any Major Dude will tell you, screams single, okay? And honestly, Night by Night would have made a great single too. I think that would have made a better single than this. I mean, Ricky Don't Lose That Number clearly is like the single. If there's going to be one single from that album, that's going to be it. But as far as following that up, come on, man. Any Major Dude. Really? But yeah, Pretzel Logic, great track. Kind of decent as a single, but love it. Pretzel Logic. All right, it's coming number 8. FM. Yeah, from the film of the same name. Now, when this came out, I mean, this kind of came out in the middle of the Asia onslaught. Asia was out, a couple singles came out, this came out, and then they put out another Asia single. So this kind of came out right in the middle of that insanity. And at the time, it seemed like them sort of being commissioned to do this song for a movie was the result of them basically having hit pay dirt, like having hit, superstar status with this giant blockbuster of an album. When in fact, actually, they recorded this during the session for Asia because they were approached, before they even finished that album to do this. And at the time when this was done, their latest album was The Royal Scam, which had no major singles on it. The album before that, Katy Lied, had no major singles. So they were 2 albums. They had the last 2 albums had no major hits, and they were asked to do the theme song for this movie. So, I mean, Obviously, it was somebody with a vision who knew exactly how great of a track they would get from Steely Dan, so... And they got one. And of course, we had the Eagles, Glenn Frey and Don Henley and Timothy B. Schmidt on backing vocals for that. They did a lot of stuff during this time. Well, Timothy B. Schmidt is on all kinds of tracks from this period. But yeah, FM, what a classic. All right, it's coming number 7. Speaking of classics, and speaking of Timothy B. Schmidt on backing vocals, Josie. Yeah, Josie, also one of the gazillion Asia tracks that you know. Whether you know it or not, you know it. Yeah, another track you couldn't avoid at the time. Now, strangely, I talk about the burnout with Peg and a bit of burnout with Deacon Blues. I'm not as burnt out on this one. There's really no rhyme or reason to what you get burnt out on and what you don't. Josie, I still like this one a lot more. See how much further I have this one ranked than those songs, and it isn't even that it's that much better of a song. I'm considerably less sick of this one. Yeah. But also I feel like this one has gotten a lot less latter-day play. You're going to hear Peg and you hear Deacon Blues a lot. I feel like Josie didn't get as much play after its initial, sort of period. But anyway, whatever. I mean, Josie, 1978. Right, it's coming number 6, Dirty Work. Yeah, from the first album, Can't Buy a Thrill. This is the second song on the album, and it's the only single to feature David Palmer on vocals. He sings a few of the songs on the album, maybe like, three, maybe 4, I don't know. But, and soon he was out of the band. He was out of the band at the first album, and then it was all Fagen, as it should be. And but the thing is that I think, from what I understand, Becker and Fagen, apparently, didn't really think that much of the track, and they weren't going to put it on the album, but ABC insisted because it was more accessible than their usual fare, and so they kind of basically got pressure to put it on the record. Fagen, I guess, did not want to sing that. So David Palmer sang it, they put it out, and it wasn't even really a big hit single, but for some reason it always was a live staple when they got back together, when they reunited and became more of a live entity, they always played it live. But Fagen never sings it. Even with no Palmer, Fagen does not sing this song. Does he really dislike it that much? Or what's the reason? Does anybody know the real reason? Is that why? I mean, he always has a backing vocalist singing the song. I mean, I saw them live once, and Bonnie Raitt came out and sang it. But, which was great. I would much rather have that than one of the backing vocalists. But I sure would love to hear Fagen singing it. I don't know. But yeah, so Dirty Work. All right, it's coming number 5, Black Friday. Yeah, this is the opening track and the first single from the 4th album, Katie Lied. It's kind of a boogie track, actually. Now, Steely Dan is not a boogie band, and boogie, that's kind of a big thing in the early 70s. It seems odd that they have a track like that, and I'm not a big fan of that vibe, but leave it to Steely Dan to make it great. Yeah, one of my favorite tracks from one of my favorite albums, and I have it all the way up to number 5. Now, strangely, it was kind of a moderate radio hit. It wasn't a hit single, it wasn't a big seller. It was a moderate radio hit. It only reached, number 37 on the charts, which was much higher than, Dirty Work and a lot of the other stuff. But, yeah, I don't know. It's Black Friday, and it's great. All right, it's coming number 4, Bad Sneakers. Yeah, the second track and the second single from Katie Lied. And man, I really, really love this. I love both these great singles from this album. Now, I find it really odd, though. I mean, these are pretty good choices for singles, but I feel like they completely overlooked the obvious single on this record. Everyone's Gone to the Movies. Everyone's Gone to the Movies is so obviously the single from this record, and they completely overlooked it. I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking, but this is a great track. This is a really great track, and it wasn't a hit at all. Not at all. I mean, it stalled at 103 on the charts or something like that. What's wrong with you people? You guys should have been rushing to Woolworth to buy up your 45s of this track, and you failed. You had one job. Okay, all right. Well, I guess that's it. Is that all I was going to say about this? Looking at my notes, yeah, that's it. Bad Sneakers. Love it. All right, coming to number 3, Reelin' in the Years. Yeah, opening track on side 2 of Can't Buy a Thrill, and the second single to be released from the album. Oh man, what a classic. I so remember when this was on the radio as a kid. I was about 3 3-4 years old when this was a current hit, and you heard it all the time. And this is one of my these early Steely Dan singles are some of my earliest memories of life, because I just remember being cognizant of this stuff when it was current. And it sort of coincides with when I first started to become really, really into music and really paying attention to it and being aware of it. But now I have a couple Mondegreens. Again, I was really young, so I didn't necessarily get all the words right. I misunderstood things. Reeling in the years. I thought they were saying reeling in the yees. Y-E-E-S. What are yees? I don't know. I was 3. When you're 3, you hear song or you hear words all the time that you don't know what they mean. So the fact that that isn't even actually a word would have been lost on me. It sounded like they were saying reeling in the yees. And then, are you gathering up the cheese? Yeah, are you reeling in the yees? Are you gathering up the cheese? Yeah, that's what I thought when I was a little kid. But so, and also another thing about this song is that I used to picture. Now, I didn't know what Steely Dan looked like. I don't even think I knew that it was Steely Dan doing this song when I used to hear it on the radio, in the mid-'70s. And I didn't know who Jeff Skunk Baxter was, but when I pictured the people performing this song as a kid, I basically pictured Jeff Skunk Baxter. Long, thin, stringy hair, floppy mustache, and and shades. Yeah, I had a vision of Jeff Skunk Baxter. Yeah, Reeling in the Years, a fucking classic. All right, so coming to number 2. Whoo, boy, do I love this one. Ricky, Don't Lose That Number. What a single. What a song. Opening track on the 3rd album on Pretzel Logic. Yeah, like I said earlier, if there's going to be one single from that album, this is so obviously it. This is one of those instances where they got the right one. Man, and this is their biggest hit. I mean, it only went to number 4. Incredibly, Steely Dan never had a number 1 hit. Not even any of the stuff from Asia went to number 1. So this is their biggest hit. But this was such a favorite of mine. This always has been. It was a favorite of mine all the way since it was new. I was 4, 5 maybe, I guess, when this record came out. When did this come out? Like 74. So yeah, I was probably still 4 when this record came out. And how many times was I sitting in the backseat of my parents' car or my mom's car, and this song was on the radio, and I would just love it. And again, I don't even think I knew it was Steely Dan. I just knew I loved this song. And it's just so easy and so pleasing, with the kind of smooth Latin vibes, yet it doesn't sound like anything else. It didn't sound like anything else on the radio at the time. It didn't sound like anything else that you'd ever heard before or since. I mean, this track is its own entity, and I love it. I love it. Ricky, Don't Lose That Number. And of course, number 1, coming in number 1, Do It Again. Yeah, Do It Again, man. The first single from their debut album, and just like Reeling in the Years, man, I remember when this was a current single on the radio. I was really little, but I was aware of it, and I loved it. And again, I talked about Ricky, Don't Lose That Number being not sounding like anything else. Do It Again really sounded and still sounds like absolutely nothing else. There's nothing else in the world of music sounds like this song. And it just took me on it. Like when I was a little kid and heard this on the radio, I would just stop and just listen to it and just be like, it just took you to another planet, like a really great pop single should. I can dig the whole, good throwaway kind of, cheesy, simple pop songs that don't really mean or do anything just for fun. But like a really pop single at its best is something like this, that just takes you to an entirely a whole other world where you've never been and may never be again. Yeah, that's what this track is, and even I already said I was 3 or 4 years old. The thing about this track is that this was when David Palmer was in the band, and thankfully Fagan sang it on the album. Thank you. But whenever they did it live, which was not often because they played live in the 70s, like 8 times or something, but David Palmer always sang it, which did not work. I mentioned the Midnight Special videos that are up. One of the videos is them doing this song, but David Palmer sings. And it's like, oh, God, oh, what a loss. Really, we needed Fagan doing that. But hey, you know what? I'll count your blessings. Fagan sang it on the record. Whew, thank you. Do it again. Oh yeah. All right, there you go. That is my ranking of the Steely Dan singles, the original run Steely Dan singles. Man, what a great band, great albums, great singles. I know they can be polarizing. Some people love Steely Dan, some people hate them. If you're one of those people who doesn't like them and you're still watching, you rule. And I know I can think of a few people who I know who watch these videos who don't like Steely Dan. And if you're still watching, I salute you. But yeah, Steely Dan can be polarizing. I used to have a roommate who hated Steely Dan so much, she once broke up with a guy because he liked Steely Dan. Which I think is hilarious. I love Steely Dan. That's hilarious. But all right, so anyway, thank you everybody for watching, and thank you for watching all the videos. Thank you for subscribing if you have, but if you haven't, maybe consider subscribing. If you do, click the little bell because of notifications, and come back this Thursday because Crystal Durant and Tommy Von Boyd are going to be back here in the world famous As You Should Be Studios, and we are going to be counting down our top favorite cartoon theme songs. Okay, yeah, we're doing our sort of TV themes series, and we're concluding it with our favorite cartoon theme songs. Don't miss that. Come back. All right, hopefully I will see you then.